This week's Critical Thought comes with an announcement. My next book, Game Design Deep Dive Free to Play, is in production and is scheduled to come out in August of 2022. And I'll be sure to let everyone know when reserves and pre-orders are up for that. But a major part of this book is discussing ethical monetization and the psychology behind free-to-play, live service, and mobile games. And a lot of these topics are going to be turned into future critical thoughts, starting with this one. A major point about the book is trying to come up with a way of defining games that are very much fair to non-paying and paying players. And the term we kind of came up with is player-friendly design. So for our critical thought, I'm going to be going over the 4 main points a game needs to have done in order to achieve this lofty title. Live service and gacha, mobile, free-to-play, and all that kind of design has really blown up over the past decade, with the likes of Hearthstone, Gwent, Genshin Impact, and the many games have all attempted to get a piece of that pie. But with these titles have come varying claims of how fair they are and whether they fall on the free-to-play or pay-to-win side. Now, a major problem with defining strictly as pay-to-win is that it often doesn't hit all the various unethical or very shady aspects behind live service games, and why I wanted to come up with a better definition with player-friendly design. So as I said in our little stinger, there are 4 big points that a game must hit if it wants to be considered fair to play and player-friendly design. So the first point: does somebody feel forced to play? Now, for some of you out there, you may be thinking that's a weird point to start on. Video games are meant to be leisure activities. Nobody's putting a gun to your head in order to play Gwent or play Elden Ring, as I'm sure a lot of people can attest to right now. But a major aspect of the psychology of live service games or games as a service is to become somebody's everyday game. That game that becomes a part of your daily routine that you are going to log on for whoever knows how long that game is each day and play it day in and day out, because that hopefully will drive retention and weight to it and will get you to spend money as time goes on. Now, a major aspect of live service games has to do with the concept of the daily loop, or the bare minimum amount of time somebody needs to spend playing a game daily in order to remain competitive or get all the resources. We see this in every mobile live service game out there, where there will be daily quests. This could also be gated based on the amount of energy you have, whatever the kind of, time-based resource you get. And some of these games will give you a checklist of things to do that will most often involve you hitting every main system in this game. We want you to play 3 daily matches. We want you to craft 5 items. You have to do at least 4 raids. You have to play PvP and win at least 2 times. You need to buy something from the store. And this goes on and on. And the idea of daily resource is that this is, for a lot of people, your main way of getting the various currencies and items and so on that you need to keep playing. Where this becomes a problem is when a game demands that you log in either for a lengthy period of time or specific periods of time if you want to be able to even continue to play this game. So a lot of live service games will start very small. Maybe the daily loop is 10 minutes, 20 minutes, stuff like that. But as you get further in and more of the systems unlock, that commitment starts to go up. It becomes 40 minutes. Then it can become an hour of your time. And it can even go beyond that. When I was playing Marvel Strike Force, it originally started at about 30 minutes. Then it became about 50 to an hour because of the raid content. And then when they unlocked Alliance play, that became about 2 hours I had to give to this game every day in order to keep my account healthy and to keep my guild happy. And here's the important point about this. I'm not talking about how long somebody wants to play. The daily loop is the bare minimum that the game requires of you. If somebody wants to sit and play a game of Hearthstone or Dead by Daylight or whatever for 5, 10, 15 hours, that's their prerogative. The game should not actively encourage you to keep playing beyond those times. Now, the other point, as I said, is being forced to log on at specific points. This is what the nightmare of when you have global servers or you're dealing with multiple regions that have their own time zones. That if, let's say, the event for one region ends at 5 a.m. in the morning, you may have to stay up to 5 a.m. in the morning in order to make sure that your team succeeds or you get this reward or you win the PvP. And you should definitely not incentivize spending money to avoid an issue in this design. And this is something that, again, it is on a game-by-game basis, especially for games that have competitive or cooperative systems. Now, when it comes to the daily loop itself, I would say the shorter the daily loop is, the better. And I would argue for most live service, gacha, whatever kind of games, your daily loop should be between, I would say, 20 to 30 minutes at minimum, and probably no more than an hour at maximum. Because again, once you get over an hour, it starts to become very consuming for people, especially with all the other games we have to play. And like I said, if you want to have the ability to play for longer than that, that is perfectly fine. We are again talking about the bare minimum. One thing that I would like to see more games adopt is the idea of pooling daily rewards. So that if, let's say, I can't log in every day for your game, maybe I log in every other day or every other day, that the game will bank, day 1, day 2, day 3 rewards. So if I want to play on day 3, let's say for double my time or triple my time, I can catch up to that content. I am not being punished for having a life and trying to play your game at the same time. Now, the second point is definitely one that hits for a lot of pay-to-win discussions. Does somebody feel forced or coerced into spending money to play this game? So this point has to do with anything that involves tricking or manipulating someone into thinking that they must spend money. That the only way I can keep playing is I have to give you my credit card number. And for a lot of live service games, especially those with competitive aspects, it can certainly feel that way. When you and your basic team goes up against somebody who has all the legendaries or all the 6 stars or whatever designation you want, and you are pounded into digital pace. But there are a lot of live service games, especially in the mobile territory, that have intentional difficulty spikes. This is when it kind of goes, okay, level 2 is a 3 out of 10. Level 3 is maybe a 4 out of 10. Level 5 is an 80 out of 10. And then level 6 is maybe a 5 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. And you can tell when games have these, because they will always show up usually about in the middle of the game. This is when you're past the kind of tutorial and onboarding and you're just playing the game daily. In the game Punishing Grey Raven, there was a level, I think it was 5-6 or 6-5, I may be confusing the two, where the boss that you have to fight in that level is about 30 levels higher than anything else in the chapter before or after it. And this was just an intentional gate that you either need to get somebody who's a high enough level to help you, or you gotta farm or pull in your gotchas to get some really great stuff. And this is very explicit in that respect. But there's also implicit examples. And this is when we get to stuff like guild activities or working with other players, where you have to keep up with everybody in your guild. If you are the weak link in your guild or your alliance or faction, whatever, you could be kicked out. If you're not pulling your weight, if you're not contributing enough points or doing enough maps, people don't want to have you in their guild. I got kicked out of my guild in Marvel Strike Force for that very reason. And we see this in a lot of games that also have cosmetics as well. that if you're the basic starting character and you want to get, or everyone else has their super fancy, shiny, glowy, whatever skins, you're going to feel like the pariah of the group, especially if you're among friends or you're among, other school children, if you're a teen or whatever. And peer pressure is certainly a major factor when it comes to this point. You know how games have, if you don't spend money now, or if you don't do this map, the child will get killed, or the world will end, or whatever happened to that child in that Harry Potter mobile game as well. And this kind of manipulation is definitely not warranted, and it is a way, again, of trying to incentivize that act of spending, but by punishing you for not spending. Going back to Marvel Strike Force, there were characters that were explicitly built for their PvP mode or their guild play. That if you were that one person in your guild that didn't have that character or build that team, you were looked down on as, again, the weak person in your alliance. So why should we keep you along? And it is okay to have things to spend on. And that's what I'm going to talk more about in the next point. But you should not make it so that the player feels like spending money is the only option. And for free players, we understand that we're not going to, log on, play for free, and be all the way up here with the person who just spent $5,000 on your game. But what we want to see is that eventually the free player and the paying player can be on even terms. And that's a major discussion I'll come back to with point number 4. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to be discussing points 3 and 4. And is there a live service or mobile game that comes close to hitting player-friendly design? Well, I have one idea that I'm sure nobody's going to guess by the time we get to it. But if you're interested in my other books on design and the other Game Design Deep Dive series entries, then check these out. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with free-to-play coming in 2022. Alright, welcome back. So we're going to be discussing points 3 and 4 in this section. And for point number 3, does spending money provide a unique and better experience than for those that don't spend it? And this is one of those points that can become very murky when it comes to designating something as pay-to-win or free-to-play. Like I said in the last part, spending money in a live service, a gacha game, a mobile game, whatever, it is supposed to give you benefits. If it doesn't give you benefits, then why do you spend money in the first place? And there is nothing wrong with offering people more options and allowing them to get a greater chance to experience this game for speeding things up by spending money. The problem, and when this point comes in, is that if I don't spend money, my experience is down here. If you spend money, the experience is up here. And there are a lot of mobile and live service games that will give unique rewards and bonuses for spending money in them. One of the most popular aspects is the VIP system. How it works is that the more you spend money, the more money that gets tied to your account, you unlock exclusive rewards and quality of life features that other people who don't spend money or don't spend as much as you get to use. This could be more inventory space, being able to get more rewards daily, get access to maybe a free gacha pool, things along those lines. And in this aspect, if you spend money, the game is going to be inherently better for you. And that's not what we want to see. Again, free players know that we're not going to get everything immediately, or we're going to have all the best stuff at the same rate as somebody who spends a lot of money. But the free player doesn't want to feel like a second or third class citizen in your game. So I have an example from Marvel Strike Force, and for designers watching or listening, you're going to love this one. The game as it got more into its life, would start introducing more and more characters, especially those of higher varieties or higher rarities and power. As a free player, you literally could not acquire a new character when they were introduced. And this is not an example of needing to get good. They actually limited how much of these shards that would drop for free when a new character was introduced. So there was no way you could get a new character in that game without spending money. And for the people who did spend money, they would get access to newer characters, more utility, probably more game-breaking team compositions, oftentimes months before free players could do that. And that is a huge no-no. And it's something that you really don't want to see in any game, let alone one that has competitive aspects to it. Now, here's the other point I may get into trouble with. I'm also including cosmetics into this point. A lot of people will argue to the death that because a cosmetic has no gameplay affecting value, it is free to have it locked to a paywall. And that I disagree with when it comes to player-friendly design. There should not be any system in your game that can only be accessible or consumed by spending real money. I am fine with having premium cosmetics that are only able to be purchased. But your game should also offer free options that somebody can unlock through play or by completing quests or hitting enough levels. If somebody is the top player in a game, they are level 150 out of 150, they should not still be forced to wear the starter clothing because they didn't want to spend $19.95 on a fancy coat. And like I said, you can allow people to speed up the process of playing. Again, that's a major element of paying in gacha and live service games. If I want that shiny new weapon or that amazing new pet, I could play the game for hours and get resources or keep playing, or I throw $4.99, $10.99, wherever I see fit. Again, a major point about this is that it's not about saying that the developer can't earn any money throughout their games. It's about providing an experience that everyone can experience and enjoy the game without the pressure or the feeling of being threatened or manipulated to spending money. And that takes me to the fourth point. Can a free player or a non-paying player remain viable or competitively viable as the game goes on? This is where we get into the live service and the post-release content of these games. Because one of the challenges of any live service game is you need more stuff. You have to keep putting out new maps. If you're a gacha game, you're putting out new characters. If you're a Dragon Ball related gacha game, that means 37 more varieties of Goku and probably 27 more varieties of Vegeta. But there needs to be more stuff. There has to be a reason to log on daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever. And if you're not thinking about next month's content release or next month's banner or map, you're going to fall behind, you're going to lose interest in the player base. But the issue, and where this balancing act comes in, is that as a game gets further into its shelf life, developers become more confident in their designs. That also means being able to add cooler and new stuff to your games. If we could try to compare like the first 10 champions developed and released for League of Legends to the latest 10 champions that were developed and released, I'm sure they're going to be fundamentally different in terms of their philosophy, abilities, and playstyle. Dead by Daylight is another huge point. Any longtime fan can certainly attest that the newer champions that have been released feel very different than the ones that were there at day one or ones that were added during its first few years. And there's nothing wrong with getting creative with your new content. The issue, and where we get to this point, can somebody who is not spending money every day or every week or every month or every update, can they still compete and play this game? Because if you introduce a new mechanic, a new system, a new rule with a premium or a purchasable character, can a free player still be able to beat that, or do they have an option for it? This is a very big aspect of deck builders. When a new expansion or booster pack is released, you suddenly have new cards with new rules into that pool. And if you introduce something that is brand new, that unless you spend money, you do not have a counter for, that is a very big imbalance. And you also do not want to introduce a balancing issue that can then be corrected by spending money on another point. And going back to Marvel Strike Force, they did just that. They released this character called Minerva, who I'll let the Marvel comic book fans explain who that is, and she had the unique ability at the time to revive a character in your team. Now, with teams having synergy bonuses and powerful characters who can just wreck everybody, giving that character an extra life during combat or being able to revive your incredibly hard to kill tank gave a huge advantage, and she was incredibly overpowered. And here's the point. There was no counter to the ability to stop her from reviving other characters. Unless you can kill her first, but if they have a powerful tank, that's not really possible. So then the developers introduced the way of countering that, and they did so by creating a legendary character that most free players would never, or not in any reasonable time frame, meet the conditions to get that character. So they introduced one pay-to-win aspect, and then they introduced the counter with another pay-to-win aspect. And this is what you do not want to do in your game. There should always be a free alternative. Is it the most optimal answer? No, or it doesn't have to be. But if the only solution is spend $9.95 on a new booster pack or $15.99 on a new character, that's not player-friendly design, and it introduces again the aspects of the arms race that you do not want in a healthy live service game. So, as I said before we got to the break, that there's one game in my mind that probably comes the closest to player-friendly design. I haven't played it enough to really, come down yes or no on it. And I did not expect this one. I kind of talked myself into it while I was coming up with the mental script for this video. And I'm going to bet right now that none of you watching this are going to know what game I'm discussing. And no, it's not Warframe, and it's not Path of Exile either. It is, and I'm going to probably lose who knows how much a gamer cred I'm going to lose when I say this point. But surprisingly, I think it might be Arknights, the tower defense gacha game that is, I think, kind of like maybe mid to high tier in terms of popularity. I don't know where it sits in the mobile space. So if we go over the 4 points really fast, it has a very generous daily loop play where I'm at the point now where I can complete my daily objectives within 15 to 20 minutes and then I am done. For point number 2, you earn premium currency simply by playing it. Of course, you can spend more money to get more at it. For point 3, nothing is locked exclusively behind a paywall in terms of features or services that will give you a unique or special advantage. And it is one of the few games where people have beaten it or beaten all the maps using all the free players or the free characters that you unlocked. Now, I am nowhere near the end game of it yet, so I can't fully critique it on that front, but from what I've seen, it kind of hits these 4 points. And for anyone watching this who has played Arknights, let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. So, to wrap up our critical thought for today, player-friendly design is definitely high in terms of the standards I want to make for it. And a major point about this is that free-to-play and pay-to-win do not exist as an on-off switch. It's more of a spectrum. that, negative 100 would be full pay to win. This could be spend $29.95 and we'll give every character in your team instant plus 50% attack damage on your account. While 100% free to play would be something like an edutainment game, something that was sponsored by a government or organization that is a full game to play that has no cost to it. And player-friendly design would probably sit as close to 100% free to play as one game could get. Probably in the, I would say maybe like 80 to 90% of that field. And games like Path of Exile and Warframe are close. But I still think that they should give you free options. Again, not everything for all of its features. And there is a whole lot more we could discuss on that front. But as I'll talk more about in later critical thoughts and in Game Design Deep Dive Free to Play, there is a lot that goes into the balance, refining, and iterating on a live service game that you need to always weigh what can I add to this game without trying to exploit or manipulate people into spending money. And it is a very tough line to walk. And why games like Path of Exile and Warframe have succeeded thanks to the amount of goodwill that their games provide, by the literal fact that if you don't want to spend 1 cent in either one of those games, you get a full-fledged ARPG or, action third-person shooter slash 'em up, and that is completely free. And definitely kudos and credits to Grinding Gear Games and, oh no, I forget their name. I'll edit it somewhere up there. I think it's Digital Extremes. And I'll let future Josh edit that if I'm wrong there. But thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know if you can think of any other live service, games as a service, mobile games, whatever, that managed to get close to what I've defined as player-friendly design. Be sure to do all the liking, subscribing, and commenting the YouTube algorithm tells you to do. And check out our Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.